while Super Psychic Policeman Shoujo was met mostly with a silent treatment for the fanbase at large, the second manga of this batch seems to be the talk of town. Dear Anemone by rookie mangaka Rin Matsui got people's attention with gorgeous art and a terrifying first chapter. Now, I'm one of those people that hate when people push the narrative that dark, gory, horror-inspired manga in Weekly Shonen Jump is a rare or a new thing. One of my personal favorite titles in Weekly Shonen Jump, Majin Tate no Kaminiro, can be considered a horror with its demonic main character and grotesque designs, and so can Muyo and Roji, which was running at the same time. The Promised Neverland, Phantom Seer, Enigma, Amalgam of Destruction, even titles like Chainsaw Man, Jujutsu Kaisen, and early Bleach can be considered somewhat dark and horror-inspired. I love horror and I love Jump, which is why you need to trust me when I tell you that Dear Anemone, well, it's something different. At least the first chapter of this manga is terrifying in ways that I haven't seen any other Weekly Shonen Jump manga being. Other shonens from other magazines or even Jump magazines? Sure, but Weekly Shonen Jump? No, at least not out of the over 100 manga that I've read from the magazine. But anyways, let's dive into Dear Anemone. What is it about? Well, this chapter follows Gaku Achiwe as he and 14 other people are driven to the Galapagos Islands, a place where 10 years before a massive explosion spread an unknown virus. A year before the events of the manga, 15 other people, including Gaku's friend, were sent to the island to find more about the incident as they concluded that the virus was a few risk to humans, but they never came back. So now it's up to Gaku and the rest of the crew to finish what they started and at the same time figure out what happened to the original crew. After being separated in groups and walking for about 2 hours, Gaku's group finally finds a lost member of the previous crew, but while trying to communicate with him, he suddenly transforms into a grotesque animal and probably decapitates one of the characters in a very gruesome manner. All the while, another monster prepares to attack another girl, which our main character rushes and tries to save, only getting attacked instead. As he lays there on the monster's end, bleeding over a type of flower called anemone, a miracle happens and the flower turns into a monster too, saving our main character. And it's with a first look at the titular anemone that the first chapter comes to an end. Like I mentioned before, I love horror, and in that sense, I loved a lot of what this chapter had to offer. The monster designs are amazing. I especially love the panel with the guy turning into a monster. This also isn't really a manga that shies away from showing gore, as the panel of the character dying is honestly pretty brutal. And the fact that it's the only panel of the sort in the entire first chapter also helps it even harder. And really, as of chapter 1, this manga has all the makings of a really solid survival horror manga. 15 characters stuck in an island with horrifying creatures. The mangaka even did the thing about making the second most relevant character in the start be the first one to die. And there's also a pretty compelling mystery to solve. There's a solid info dump thrown here, but at the same time, there's so much to discover. Why did the explosion happen? What's the virus? What happened to the previous crew? Is the monsters them, or do they just shapeshift? Because the guy turned into a chameleon-like monster, and the other monster we saw was kind of a bird-like one, and that one never seemed to shapeshift into another human. So maybe it's just that that monster in particular can shapeshift. I think the main drive to read Dear Anemone right now is to just figure out what's happening, and I think in that sense the manga was very successful. On the other hand, in my role to try to convince you to read it or not, it's hard because I don't think the manga really did much in this first chapter. One thing that I would have loved to see more is the relationship between the main character and the anemone. Throughout all the promotional art, we've been kind of focusing on them as a duo, which is why it's kind of shocking to me that the anemone character only appears in the last panel of the chapter. My question is, where does this manga go next? There's a couple of manga that I liked the first chapter, but I couldn't really tell where it could have go moving forward. And a lot of these times, these manga end up failing pretty fast. I don't think that's necessarily what's going to happen with your Anemone, but my biggest fear is that this is just a setup for Anemone to fuse with Gaku and then give him powers, and then this just becomes kind of like a battle shonen. I know it may sound insane from what this chapter brought us so far, but a lot of people are saying that this just doesn't feel like a Shonen Jump manga, and I agree, but what if that's just the setup? What if the rest of the manga becomes more of a generic battle shonen? I don't want that. I know a lot of people are commenting that this has a lot of similarities with Hell's Paradise. Now, I never personally read Hell's Paradise. It's on my planning list. I just never gotten to it. But I know it's kind of like this greedy battle shonen, or at least it feels like it's a greedy battle shonen. And I don't hate those, actually, I love those, but that's not what I want from Dear Anemone just coming out of chapter 1. I don't think Weekly Shonen Jump ever had a survival horror manga other than Enigma, kinda. But if Weekly Shonen magazine can, I can't see why Jump can't. Ideally, what I want is for this manga to remain what it is. 15 people, well, 14 now, stuck in a jungle with monsters trying to unravel a mystery and doing their best to survive. I think if it remains that, it can be unique and have its own spot in the magazine, at least if enough people like it, which so far, at least in the West, a lot of people seem to be enjoying it. So I have some high hopes of its survival, but we'll have to see. If you want to know my first thoughts on the other manga of this batch, Super Psychic Policeman Shoujo, then you can click the video on the left, and if you watch it till here, thank you very much, and I'll see you next video.